Most Sydney dental practices are invisible on Google, and it's not because they're bad at what they do, it's just because their online presence is actively working against them. If you're relying on word of mouth or just hoping that people find your clinic online, then you're actually leaving money on the table. In this video, I'll show you 3 simple SEO wins to help your clinic appear higher when people are searching for dental services in Sydney. And I'll show you how to book in more new patients without spending a cent on ads. If your clinic is not appearing in the local pack, which is typically shown above the organic listings where you see the 3 top ranking local businesses, then you're losing a huge chunk of potential patients. I'm going to show you how to diagnose your local visibility by doing a local audit on a random dental clinic site in Sydney. And specifically, I'm going to walk you through the 3 areas that have the biggest impact on local rankings. And these are number 1, your relevance, number 2, your proximity to the searcher, and number 3, your reviews, both in terms of quantity and quality. So let's jump right into it. We're going to start by going into SEMrush, and I'm going to be using Bondi Junction as the target city in the example that I'll give you. So I've typed in dentist Bondi Junction, and we can see that it has about 590 searches a month and a keyword difficulty score of 34% according to SEMrush, which is fairly moderate. Now, if we scroll down to the results, I'm basically just going to be choosing a random clinic to analyze for this example. And what I've done is gone into page 3 and I've selected this one that's ranking number 29, Dental on Hollywood. So this is their website here, and this is what I'll be walking you through in terms of my analysis. So the first thing I'm going to do is head into Google and search for the keyword dentist Bondi Junction. That would be the most relevant head term that this particular clinic will want to rank for. And now if we have a look, we can see that this local pack appears first. And this is really why it's so important to make sure that your local rankings are really strong, because really you only see the top 3 dental clinics appear in this list, and then you have to click into more places to see the rest of the results. So you want to be in that top 3 for your head term. It's really, really important. So if we have a look here, the top 3 results, we've got Primary Dental, ABC Dental, and Dental 99. Now, if we try and find the clinic that I've given as an example, Dental on Hollywood, they're all the way down here. And I've also just run a quick scan on their local rankings through Local Falcon. So if we jump through here, and again, this is looking at the keyword dentist Bondi Junction, we can see that their overall sort of average rankings are pretty poor. You would expect this rankings drop off to really drop off once you get past this area that they're actually physically based in. So that's fairly expected. But if we zoom in here, we can see that even around the Bondi Junction area, they're not ranking anywhere near the top 3. So this says 6. And as we can see here through a manual search, it looks like they're actually sitting a little bit below that. So plenty of room for improvement there. Obviously, as you go further out from the radius around the clinic, you would expect the rankings to drop off. But certainly within a vicinity around their physical location, we should be seeing much stronger rankings. Because certainly when people search for dentists in Bondi, you would expect people in surrounding suburbs to be willing to travel to Bondi Junction as well, as they're fairly close together. So plenty of room for improvement there. We can see that their local rankings sit outside of that top 3, obviously. But in terms of where they sit right now, what we would look at from a local rankings perspective in the local pack would be their total review count. So that's really important. Their proximity to the target city that's been searched for, which in this case is Bondi Junction. Now, if you have a look at their physical location, we can see that they just sit right there. So they're pretty much right in the same location as all of the other clinics in Bondi Junction. So proximity wise, they are pretty much in Bondi Junction, which is hyper relevant to this term. Reviews we'll have a look at in a second, and then relevance. And what I mean by relevance is local relevance. So Google needs to see them as a locally relevant clinic and an authority in their space. So starting with the review counts, if we have a look at these top three competitors, we can see Primary Dental has 875 reviews. The second one has 399. Third one has 204. So really, we can see a pattern here. The top rated clinics are appearing at the top, and it's not just their overall review count, it's also their aggregate rating. This one has over 800, nearly 900 reviews, and they've managed to maintain a 5-star rating. ABC Dental is 4.6, 4.7, so really strong aggregate ratings and review counts. And when it comes to local pack rankings, the number of reviews and the quality of reviews you have is so important. So for a clinic like Dental on Hollywood, they've got 60 reviews. The aggregate rating is really good, but what's really holding them back is the number of reviews they have. Because as we scroll through these top sort of 5 results, we can see that even as you get into the 4th position, you've got over 100, you've got nearly 300 here. And then there is a bit of a drop off there, which is encouraging, because if you see clinics ranking with lower reviews, that means there is a good chance that with proper optimization, you can also overtake them. So certainly a lot of room for improvement there. So review counts is really important. I think what they really should be doing is coming up with an average number of reviews that they want to target. Typically, you want to be at least 10 to 15% higher than the top ranking competitors. And what I mean by that is you don't want to just meet their review count. You actually want to be overtaking it, because if you want to maintain those rankings, you need to be ahead of your competitors. So what I will be doing is taking an average of these top 5 ranking results, work out an average number of reviews and aim to meet that initially. And then once you hit that, then work towards going beyond. Obviously, it's really key to maintain your aggregate rating. So you want to be as close to a 5 as possible. Now, the other thing is the reviews themselves. Ideally, you want them to be really descriptive and specific to what those customers liked about your clinic. Because Google, you'll see at the top here, they provide summaries of what people are saying about the clinic, and you'll see in bold that they've mentioned specific attributes that people have mentioned. So we see here service, staff, price, quality. All of these attributes are really important to be mentioned in the reviews. So when you do request for reviews from your customers, it's important to give them a bit of a brief as to what you would like them to structure their reviews. Not suggesting that you write the reviews for them, but just give them prompts as to what they can include in the review. And that will make a huge difference in terms of the quality and the descriptiveness of the reviews that you get. And that will really go a long way towards being able to be seen as a local authority, and also for Google and AI searchers to be able to understand what people like about your clinic. And the more reviews you can get, the more recommendations you'll get from Google and other AI searchers as well. So that's a review count. We've touched on proximity. They are within that area, so that's not an issue. Now, when it comes to local relevance, a lot of it comes down to authority and overall sort of structure of the site. So I want to jump into SEMrush again, and we're going to have a look at their local citations, because that's really important. So if we jump into here, and I've just run a quick scan on their website, just to get a quick overview as to what their local citations look like. Now, if we have a quick scroll down to here, SEMrush gives a quick summary of how their local citations are looking and any issues with their placements. So we can see there's a couple of opportunities here that we could very quickly fix up. These citations won't massively move the needle in terms of local rankings, but it's just something that's very important to tick off, because you want to make sure that your NAP, which is your business name, your address, and your phone number, are all consistent across all of the directories that you're mentioned on. Again, that just makes it easier for Google to understand your business and to be able to recommend it to relevant searchers in your area. So what I've done is I've copied all of these local citations into a Google Sheet. and I've pasted them into here. So what we'll start doing is actually reaching out to each of these directories, finding the listings, and then correcting the opportunities that are present. You'll see that some of these actually aren't even listed. So we can simply just go into these directories and list their clinic. And then, like I said, any issues, we'll correct them directly through these directories as well. So really simple opportunity, but a very important step to start building these local citations. Now, this is really just a starting point. So these are what I call foundational links. We can see here there's about 25 opportunities. Usually what I recommend is you want to aim for at least 100 to 150 local citations on quality sites. And this is a really fairly simple process, and there are different vendors that offer local citation services that will build them for you. Fairly low cost as well, because it's not overly difficult to acquire these citations, and for that reason, they're not overly impactful in terms of local rankings, but they do serve an important purpose in terms of foundational links. So you want to make sure that you have at least 100 to 150 to really lay a strong foundation for your link profile. And then the next thing you want to look at is other steps to build quality links. So I've got this tab here called Link Building. And the first approach I would suggest is if you go into Google and simply type in sponsorships plus the city that you want to rank in this case would be Bondi, you can actually find some great initial opportunities to build locally relevant links. And so if you have a look through these results here, we'll open up the first one. These are a great way to build links at the local level. So this is Bondi Surfers Club. And as we scroll down, we'll see that there's actually outgoing links to their sponsors. So the first step you can start to implement is to look through all of these sites that accept sponsorships. And the majority of these are actually local clubs or businesses that accept these sponsorship opportunities. And you want to start reaching out to them and asking what those investment levels look like and what the process is to get listed on their sponsorship page. Now, the key here is that you want to find opportunities where they are actually linking out to websites. So in this example, we can see that they are linking to some of these directly to their website because you want that backlink going to the clinic page. So really straightforward step that you can take to build locally relevant links. And you'll see here that I've got a couple examples listed here. So you want to start listing these out and actually reaching out to them and start acquiring as many as possible. Like I said, great opportunity to build links, and it's often untapped. So you'll find that other clinics probably aren't using this approach, and it can really give you an edge when it comes to local rankings in the local pack, as well as your organic rankings as well. So sponsorships would be a great starting point. You can look through these. There's probably many pages of opportunities here. So this will keep you busy for a little while. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, you can actually start to look at sponsored posts and guest posting opportunities on relevant sites. Now, when it comes to building links at the local level, we really want to focus on .com.au domains. Guest posting is definitely an overused technique across many industries, and you'll find a lot of sites that are specifically built just to publish guest posts. So you want to avoid those. You really want to try and find legitimate websites and businesses that accept sponsored posts. So I've listed a couple of examples here. For example, this one, senior.com. Looks like a proper publication, and through my research I have been able to find out that they accept sponsored posts. Now, if you wanted to have a quick look at how you can find these opportunities, simply head into Google and plug in your sort of primary topic that you want to rank for. So let's say we look at dentures. And you want to look at sponsored posts. And I've just put in this modifier here to only show .com.au domains because, like I said, those are the types of opportunities we want to focus on. And you can look through these results, and effectively each of these websites should have some sort of sponsored or guest posting opportunities. You can also change this up to specifically find guest posting opportunities. and you'll see there's quite a few results here that you could go through. It is a bit of a manual process to find relevant opportunities, but it's fairly simple to do this manually and just list out all the opportunities you find that are high quality, that are relevant to your clinic, and also that actually accept guest posts or sponsored posts. And by using these modifiers, you can be pretty certain that they will accept them, but it will be a manual outreach process. So just these two types of link building opportunities will keep you busy for quite a while and will give you a really solid link profile. And from there, you can really start to branch out if you really wanted to. But honestly, at the local level, if you do these two steps alone and build a nice volume of links, your site authority should start to grow, and you should start to see a nice improvement in local rankings. Next up, we're going to be looking at your site structure. And this is one that most dental practices overlook. You want to make sure that your website is easy to crawl by Google and that each of your core services has a separate page, rather than having a very long Our Services page. And this will help your clinic rank higher for specific keywords like Invisalign Sydney or Emergency Dental Services Sydney, because your targeted pages will contain relevant content for each of your core services. So to start improving the site architecture, we're going to be running a full site crawl. And the purpose of this is to get a high-level overview as to how the site is structured and what the URLs and overall site hierarchy looks like. And we're going to be using a tool called Screaming Frog for this. And what's really cool about Screaming Frog is you can connect up all of these APIs to get a lot of different data points for each URL. So usually what I recommend is that you connect up at least Google Analytics 4 and Google Search Console. Now, obviously, because this isn't my client, I don't actually have access to their analytics. But if you're running this for your own site, this can be a really powerful way to get performance data for each of your URLs, and it can help you make decisions for how you want to improve your website. So in this case, I'm just going to run the crawl. And then once the crawl has been completed, what you're going to want to do is jump back into this Google Sheet and just paste all of your crawl data into here. I've just labeled this tab as crawl. I have cleaned it up a little bit, so I've taken out some of the columns that the crawl typically comes out with, just because I want to keep this really simple, and there's a couple of high-level items that I want to focus on. So I've only looked at the indexable URLs. So these are the ones that are actually appearing in Google search results. Now, a couple of things I want to point out here is immediately when we look at their title tags, we can see a problem. So it looks like the term Bondi Junction Dentist is actually in every single title. Now, this is fairly normal for dental clinic sites that don't get looked at a lot, just because that's basically been embedded into their title across all of their pages. So any new page they create will automatically have this in there. Now, this is problematic for many reasons, but the main thing is that it's actually creating keyword cannibalization issues. Their head term for their site that they want to rank for, both organically and in local pack, would be Bondi Junction Dentist or Dentist Bondi Junction, variations of this term. Now, with SEO, the best practice is to target one primary keyword per page so that Google and other AI search engines know exactly what page you want to rank for each term. Now, this creates a lot of confusion and it creates a lot of keyword cannibalization issues. I've highlighted some of these here, but this term is effectively on every single page. So this is definitely something that we're going to want to fix. Now, the other thing I noticed was they've got some blog content here. The URL structure is completely unoptimized. So if we open up one of these, we can see that it just says /blog3, and then it's just numbered blog titles, whereas the actual post is specifically about a certain topic. Obviously, the layout and formatting of this also needs improvement. Potentially also all of these blog posts need updating because we can't actually see when these were published or when they were last updated, but my guess would be that it was quite a number of years ago. But at the very least, we need to start cleaning up these URL structures and making it more specific to the title. And the other thing I noticed was that in each of these blog posts, if we have a look at another one, there's actually no internal linking going on. So we can see that the content is sort of just in big chunks. It's not super readable. It's not formatted that well. And it's not really contributing to the overall site's performance because usually with informational content, the goal should be that these content assets are supporting assets to primary service pages. So they really should be having links going to relevant service pages where you actually want to direct traffic and page rank towards. So if you have another one, have a look at another one. This one also doesn't have any internal links. And I'm sure this is a theme across all of their blog pages. So huge opportunity missed there for internal linking. That's something they could also look at is increasing internal link velocity going to service pages. And then if we scroll a little bit to the right here, again, we can see a fairly straightforward issue here is the meta descriptions. They've all been duplicated across all of the pages. Problematic for obvious reasons. Meta description in itself is not a huge, it's not going to have a huge impact on your overall SEO performance. And it's definitely not something that's going to move the needle on its own, but it's just something that you want to tick off. So you really want to have unique and relevant meta descriptions for each page, because whilst Google doesn't always use the meta description you provide, it will occasionally pull the one that you have given. And so having really relevant meta description is just an easy thing to tick off. That's something that's fairly straightforward. Now here, this first page, which is the home page, is actually missing the H1 tag. Again, missed opportunity in a very, very simple way to fix it up and make sure that it is relevant to the target keyword, which in the home page's case would be dentist Bondi Junction. So that's the only one that's missing it. The rest look okay. So those are the main things that I wanted to highlight from their site crawl. And what I like to do from here is actually start to build out a more optimized site map. So if we jump into this tab, I've started working through this, and you'd actually want to do this across all of the pages on the site. So you'll see over to the left here, I've plugged in the primary keyword. So it's really important to map out what primary head term you want to rank for each of your URLs. So as a dentist in Bondi Junction, they would want to rank for dentist Bondi Junction. And this will include variances. So you could have Bondi Junction dentist, Bondi Junction dental. Google is smart enough to know that they all have the same intent. So we want to rank the homepage for this. Emergency dentist Bondi Junction, root canal Bondi. So you see that some of them I've shortened it to Bondi because really when you have Bondi Junction in the URLs or in the titles, it already covers Bondi anyway, and you'll see that Bondi actually has higher search volume. And proximity-wise, Bondi and Bondi Junction are not super far. So just another way to be able to capture a little bit more search volume. And then so these are grouped into intent. Now, obviously, there's lots of different kinds of search intent. But for the purposes of local SEO, we really just want to focus on commercial intent, which is people actively looking for a service, and informational, which is higher up the funnel, but it's still important for us to be able to capture that search volume if it is relevant to our services. So we're only going to be focusing on commercial and informational. Now here, the third column is the existing URLs. So this is what currently they've got, and these are active links. And then the new URLs are what I'm proposing that we change the URL structure to. And this is really just a personal preference, but it actually can have an impact on how Google sees your site. So you'll see that basically all I've done is cleaned it up a little bit. So I've removed this dental services in the middle, which I think really just doesn't add much to the URL structure and just makes it a little bit too long. And ideally, the way I usually recommend you do it is that your / URL slug should be really specific, and Google should be able to understand it without the primary domain. So what I mean by that is if you only saw this last part of the URL, it should be really straightforward. Google should be able to understand what that page is about. So you'll see here that I've simply cleaned this up a little bit, and we've got, for the homepage, I've left it as it is. And for the second one, emergency dentist, we have / emergency dentist Bondi Junction, whereas the current one is dental services / emergencies, which is just a little bit too complex and really unnecessary in terms of what we actually want to rank for. So just really specific and really clean. Emergency dentist Bondi Junction, that's the term that we want to rank for. It's in the URL, and Google will be easily able to understand what this page is about. And then if we scroll a little bit more to the right, I've also included titles and H1 tags. Now, it's important to understand that the titles are actually what appears in the Google search results, and the H1 tag is what's visible on the site. So if we jump over here, we can see that this would be the H1 tag. Now, obviously, the homepage is actually missing the H1 like I mentioned, but usually your H1 tag will be right at the top and that'll be visible. And then the title would actually be what appears in the Google search results, which will be this. And this is something I haven't touched on yet, but obviously this is something you'd want to remove. Looks like a development error, so you wouldn't want this original home text in there. And what I've recommended here is a new title, which is Best Dentist in Bondi Junction, and then just a clinic name. And then the H1 tag is pretty much the same, but just a little bit more user-friendly, which is Best Dentist in Bondi Junction. So a little bit more readable. And you'll see this theme has been repeated across all of the pages. So Emergency Dentist, Bondi Junction, brand name, H1 tag is Emergency Dentist in Bondi Junction. Same thing here, root canal treatment, Bondi Junction, root canal treatment in Bondi Junction. So I won't go through all of them, but basically this is something you'd want to repeat across all of your commercial intent keywords. Now, when it comes to informational intent, what I really want to emphasize here is that you want to focus on locally relevant content. And the mistake that a lot of dentists in Sydney make is that they'll have really broad blog content, which isn't really specific to Sydney. So if we have a look at their crawl and just jump into a couple of their blog posts here, we see here that why is it important to visit the dentist? That's really broad. It's not specific to why you'd want to visit a dentist in Sydney. Now, I understand that in a lot of cases with dental related topics, it is difficult to come up with ideas that have local variability because dentists are sort of a universal service that everyone needs. And then you go, why does my tooth hurt? How can I replace my missing tooth? So there's nothing fundamentally wrong with this topic, but when we look at local relevance, they're really not doing much to build local relevance in terms of dentists in Bondi Junction or dentists in eastern suburbs in Sydney. And it can be a little bit tricky to find topics with local variability, but it's certainly possible. So if we go back into sitemap, I've come up with a couple ideas that are really hyper-specific to Sydney and particularly eastern Sydney. So this first one here is saltwater bad for your teeth? What Sydney beachgoers should know. Now, this is really relevant to people in the eastern suburbs because there's a lot of beaches there. The lifestyle is more beach focused, and this will be hyper relevant to people that are actually in that area. The second one is why eastern suburbs kids get more dental injuries. Again, specific to eastern suburbs, and this one's actually talking about kids. So you could have a really natural internal link pointing to their kids' dentistry page. Last one is how Sydney's sunny climate affects your oral health. A little bit broader, but again, it's specific to Sydney, and we can mention things like Sydney's climate, Sydney's lifestyle within this content, just to build local relevance. So whilst you can start with broad topics, and that's basically how I've come up with these titles. And then you can start to do a bit of manual research. You can also use AI. ChatGPT is great for brainstorming ideas on finding locally relevant angles. So you could feed in broad topics like dentists in Sydney, or you could feed in specific services like teeth whitening. How can I create content that's specific to Sydney? And it'll give you ideas that, lifestyle-wise, diet-wise, or even the climate, how that can impact your dental health in Sydney. And you can really come up with quite a few ideas. But the key is firstly to focus on local relevance, but then also don't build content just for the sake of content. So you'll notice here that all of these are different intent. So you don't want to create content for dental clinics that's basically all the same. So you'll see this first one here is specific to Sydney beachgoers. This one's specific to kids in eastern suburbs. And this one is a little bit broader, but again, it's focused on Sydney's climate. So they're all different and they all have different internal links going to specific pages. And like I mentioned, the ultimate aim of creating this content is to build local relevance. And then when you build local citations and local backlinks, you can also start to point them to your informational assets, because it does seem a little bit more natural than pointing directly to some of your service pages. And then through internal links, you can start to pass on that page rank to your more important pages that you really want to rank for. Now, even if your site is technically perfect, the content on each of your core service pages still needs to be hyper relevant to the search intent of the target keyword that you want to rank for. And what I mean by that is your page titles, headings, and body content is relevant to the term that you're looking to rank for. And I don't mean just stuffing keywords into your content, but by actually making sure that the content itself and the formatting and the layout is hyper relevant to what the user is expecting to see when they click on your website. I'm going to show you how to map primary keywords to each of your core service pages and how to optimize your content for each of those keywords. When it comes to optimizing the on-page content, we want to start with the commercial intent keywords and then move our way down to the informational intent keywords after we've already optimized all of the important service pages. Now, the simple reason for this is that the commercial intent keywords are obviously going to move the needle the most for your clinic. And when we talk about content optimization, what I really mean is that you want all of the content on each of these URLs to be hyper specific and relevant to the keyword you want to target. And the most important element here is to meet the search intent of the keyword, because that's really how Google categorizes pages and how it chooses what should rank higher than others. Ultimately, it comes down to meeting that search intent. So if we use this one as an example, emergency dentist, Bondi Junction, I've got this page open here. So immediately we can see that it's quite thin on content, and it probably doesn't actually meet the search intent directly, because this really just looks more like an informational piece of content. Whereas when someone searches for an emergency dentist, they're really looking to be able to either call or contact a dentist that's available when they need it. So this sort of content really does not meet the search intent. And there's also internal link pointing to a different page. So this needs a lot of reworking, and potentially just rebuilding the whole page would be a better approach. So we're going to be using Surfer SEO to optimize the content. And in this case, I would actually probably just rebuild the whole content anyway. So what I've done is I've plugged in our target keyword, which is emergency dentist, Bondi Junction. And I've just pasted in the existing content. So this has not been modified at all. It's just the existing content. And what Surfer does is it gives you a score, which really isn't the most important part of this page. What I want to highlight is this section here, which is the NLP keywords. Now, NLP stands for Natural Language Processing. And really all it is it's a way for Google to understand what the page is about. And not only Google, but other AI searches as well. It just makes it a lot easier for these tools to be able to understand what the content and the context is of the primary keyword on your page. So over here, what we want to focus on is the keywords and the NLP terms that actually aren't being included in the content. Now, because this content is quite thin, there's a high number of these, but there'll be other pages where there'll be varying levels of missing content. And the way I like to look at this is really just as a guide to build a foundation for the content for the target keyword. So when you look at emergency dentist, Bondi Junction, fairly common sense that we'd want that term somewhere near the top of the page, ideally in the first H1 tag. So that's a fairly simple one. But as you scroll down, what you'll see is that the relevance sort of drops off, and these are really categorized by super high relevant terms to low relevant terms. And the way Surfer pulls these is it basically looks at the top 10 ranking results, and it comes up with keyword densities and NLP terms that it thinks you should include based on what other competitors have. So really use this as a guide. I'm not suggesting that we want to be stuffing in these terms just for the sake of it. We really just want to use this to be able to figure out how well optimized our content is and how relevant it is for this primary head term. And these NLP terms can help us to refine that content, so we can start to modify sections or add more depth to the content to cover more of these categories. So there's a couple of ways you can go about this. You can obviously do this manually, and you can try and include as many of these terms as possible and have a really well-rounded piece of content. The other way to do it is to tap into AI, which is usually what I like to do to build a solid foundation. And then I have a content writer to actually build out the content and make it more personalized. So I'm going to show you my AI process. So if we jump into ChatGPT, all I've done is I've plugged in the About page. So
in this case, if we look at the homepage, there's actually some information on Dental and Hollywood here. There's also this article that they've linked to. So if we jump into ChatGPT, I've given it this very simple prompt. I've asked it to create an SEO content outline for our primary keyword, which is emergency dentist, Bondi Junction. And I've asked it to include these NLP keywords where it's possible. So basically, I've got these NLP terms from here, just gone down to the bottom and copied them. And then towards the bottom, I've also said to personalize this content to the clinic, Dental and Hollywood, where possible. And I've attached this PDF and I've just extracted this from their homepage. So I've got a bit of information about their clinic, and they've also got this article image. And what this does is it gives ChatGPT more context as to who it's writing this content for. And really, the key here is that we want this content to be personalized for your clinic. We don't just want broad content around emergency dentists, because then you're really just going to look like all of the other dentists that are targeting this term. And just by this simple step alone, you'll be able to significantly improve the output that ChatGPT gives you. So basically, it's given us a very simple and clean outline of what to include. And then I've asked it to write the first draft and aim for 900 words, which is what Surfer SEO is telling us is sort of the average number of words that is on the pages ranking in the top page. And I've just copied the output directly into Surfer SEO to this second tab here. And you'll see the difference in quality and score. So this is the original. We got about 19 out of 100. This is the optimized version. Really, this is just the first draft. I'm not suggesting that we just copy and run with this, but we can see the significant improvement in NLP optimization. So again, I'm not suggesting that you only aim for a high score, but if you scroll down, you'll see here that so many more of these subtopics and NLP terms have been covered within this content. Whereas if you look at the original, majority of them are missing. So this is a really powerful way to give you a solid structure to begin with. What you want to do from here is to get your editorial team to actually start to rework all of this content and personalize it more where possible for the clinic, and then remove anything that's super generic or not relevant to your particular clinic. But as we look through this, because we provided ChatGPT with information on the clinic, we can see that it's all hyper-specific to Bondi and also Dental and Hollywood, which is the clinic itself. There's obviously sections that will need to be modified, improved, removed potentially. There's a lot that will need to be done with this. But the reason I wanted to show you is that you can come up with a really solid initial draft, and then you can rework this but still have all of your NLP sections covered. It's a great way to get started and save a bit of time as well.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you got any value out of it, please give it a like and subscribe, as it helps to grow the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.